What's up, guys? Welcome to Awake and Aware. It is Sunday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2021. It is now 8:30 p.m. and welcome to this live show of Awake and Aware. Glad to be joining you guys today. Tonight, we are talking about love, all forms of it. What does it mean? Where does it come from? How does it affect us? Is it even real? Is it an illusion? Is it the glue that holds the universe together? Is it the stuff that God is made of? What is it? What really is going on? Who do we love? How do we love? So that's what we're talking about tonight. Hope you're joining us. And tonight we're talking about love. So I'm going to go ahead and roll this intro here, and I'll be right back with you guys in just a second. I'm up. Nice. So welcome back. If you're just joining us, I'm Nick Angel, and this show is Awake and Aware. It is Sunday, Valentine's Day. Let me move this out of the way right here so we can just see some love, right? All right. This is what we're talking about today. The word love, the meaning of love, what love is for everybody. So I just want to remind you guys that this is an interactive show. I am live. I can see your guys' comments, and I hope that you guys join me in this discussion. I will open up the lines where we'll take in some phone calls and see what people feel about love and this Valentine's Day, and they have some insight on it, because boy, is this a topic. I had to wait to Valentine's Day to really talk about it, but if we're constantly talking about consciousness and being awake and aware, I know two words probably keep coming up more than anything else. And one is meditation and the other is love. And, love is probably my favorite word in the whole English language. There used to be this thing that would allow you to track the most used words on your Facebook. And I know for 6 years in a row, the most used word that I used on my Facebook page was love. And since I woke up, or since I became kind of awake and kind of aware, the first thing that I came to realize is that love is so important. And there are different kinds of love. And at first, so I had no clue most of my life that there was more than one type of love. I just thought everything was love, and it was the intensity that we loved at. So the more that I love somebody was just the more intensity that I put into it, which can be strangling to some people. But I never knew that. I never realized that I was maybe using the wrong form of love for the wrong type of person. And so it took some time for me to grasp that there are different forms of love. So, love's been in the universe for a very long time, probably since the beginning. And people that came along before us, ancient philosophers, the Greeks specifically, took the time to divide up the different forms of love. Well, at least they gave it 8. I've heard some people try to divide it into 12 different forms of love. But I think I think they kind of are just more subsets of these 8 forms of love that Greek gave them. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the different forms of love and what they are and the different aspects and what causes them, and how they flow through our lives and how we use them in our different interpersonal relationships. Because remember, love doesn't have to just be in a relationship. What about self-love? Right? It's funny, in China, they have a holiday that is the opposite of Valentine's Day. And it's in November. And it takes place on November 11th. So it's 11/11, right? And it's called Singles Day. And it's the opposite of Valentine's Day. It's almost the same equidistant from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And they sell more on that day than America does for the entire holiday season, just for that one day. It's crazy. So, I mean, there's more people over there for sure. A lot more people. but they outsell Valentine's Day there too. So they have a big belief in self-love. It's called Singles Day. You go out and buy yourself a gift. Makes perfect sense, and everybody wants to be part of that, right? So I like the idea of Singles Day. Plus, it's on our favorite day, Quantum Day, 11/11. And I'm not going to talk about Valentine's Day because, if you don't know, the actual Valentine's Day holiday is is part of a massacre that took place where people were murdered, and it's called the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And so we're not going to talk about that. But in America, we celebrate Valentine's Day with love for our significant other. People we're dating, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk about love in that sense, right? Before I get into it, I want to take a special, just give a shout out here to my little brother, Dave Valentino Brown, because David's birthday is today, and that's why his middle name is Valentino. He was born on Valentine's Day. So shout out to you, Dave. He's out eating with his boo, but shout out to you. And shout out to my mom, because she gave birth on Valentine's Day 30 plus years ago. So good for you for having to do that on a Valentine's Day. I'm sure that wasn't fun, but was still a blessing anyway. All right, so moving right along here, let's just go ahead and jump in, and let's talk about the first type of love that you guys may have heard of or not. This is called philia or philia. So excuse me if I butcher these names. I'm not Greek, and I didn't exist. I don't speak Latin. I know a little bit about it, studied it some. But this is philia, which is an affectionate type of love. It's a love that runs deep in true friendships, right? So this is the kind of love that you can have for a coworker, a friend. I mean, you can have any of these loves in different sex, not sex, but sex, SECTS. Nice. So, Frack Darna joined us and said, LOVE in dollars. Love dollars. Yeah, I love dollars too. Who doesn't, right? He said the best love ever, making the bread. Hey, that's you know what? Money is an energy exchange. And what we do is sometimes we give money in lieu of love. I know there's a lot of cultures that's how they measure love, is how much you spend money. Because I mean, if you're spending all your time working to earn money, you're basically saying, hey, you can have some of my time, some of my energy, some of my attention that I've given here, and you know what better to do with it via money, right? And that way you can do the things that you love with the money that I've given you, or the gift that I've given you, that you can enjoy the energy exchange, and you can use it for yourself. And that's what our whole mercantile system is based off of. So in a sense, maybe that's kind of a type of love, right? That's what Frock Dahmer said. Yes. So back to Phyla. It's the type of love that we have through a friendship, but it's a close love. But maybe not so intimate. But the catalyst for this is the mind. This is something that we think about. This isn't an emotional love. This is sometimes like, man, I love that person. You know, they're always doing something good for you, or you like the way that they feel around. So you feel around them in the things that you do. So, you know, your catalyst for this happens in the mind when you're thinking about it, not so much feeling it, but thinking about it. And it says ways to show this love is an exchange or belief in imperfections with close friends, right? So this can be, when I said earlier, it's not so intimate, but it can be in a sense when you're exchanging, you know, like say you have, say you're in love with somebody and, you know, you didn't have a good day. So you go to your best friend's house and you talk about that person. But, you know, you're not bad-mouthing that person because they know that they like you and your relationship, et cetera, but you're just venting. That's the type of love that you can have where you can share intimately, but you're not so intimately, and you're probably not stepping out of the bounds of your relationship by doing so. So it's a good type of love to have, you know. This is a true friendship. But can you have a friendship within a relationship? Sure, absolutely. So this can take place with a significant other. This can actually take place with a family member. Like you can be really good friends with a family member and love that person and love the things that you guys do together. Like take, for instance, me and my brother, we can have this, we have a true friendship, especially with my older brother. Like I spent a lot of times growing up with him and looking up to him. And, I have a familial love, which we'll get to, but I also have the love of all the time and experiences that we spent with each other, which we'll also expound on too. But philia definitely takes place with that. So let's move on right here. Let's see. We got another type of love, pragma. So this is long-term love. This is what we get, like if you're celebrating an anniversary today, if you're celebrating your 30th Valentine's Day with somebody, this is the type of love you have for that person. And this is a mature love that develops over time. This can be a love for, you can have a dog that you've had for 16, 17 years and have because see, the thing is with this is you're able to experience multiple types of love that build up to this type of love. And I like Frock says, it's only you and me. And it's only you and me on the show right this second, but people come in and out. It's Facebook, and it's one of the things that way Facebook works is people will jump in and come in and out. So it is only us right now, and I appreciate you being here. But another thing, Frock, so thanks for joining us, is what happens is this actually goes on to podcast and shows up on YouTube too. So I continue recording this whether somebody's here or not, but I'm glad that you jumped in and joined us on the conversation. So the mature love that develops over time, the catalyst for this is in your subconscious. So your subconscious, this just is there. Like you don't have to think about this. You don't have to feel this. You know that your partner is there. This is the kind of thing that you experience with your soulmate. And this doesn't just have to be your soulmate, but the people that you spend the amount of time with to develop this will be through time. And it's something that's reciprocated. So it's an ebb and flow, and it definitely takes time to develop. And then let's see here. We'll move on. And then we have Storge. It's the familiar love, flows between parents and children or childhood friends. And so this is the type of love that you have for your mother or for your father or even siblings. But one other cool thing is like how it says your childhood friends. Like think about the kids that you went to elementary school, or the kids that you were in Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts or on your football team with, and like how you guys built a bond being in that. Like for me, when I went to basic training, the other 42 people who were in my unit in basic training, I have a connection with them more so than anybody else in the military that I spent time with. I have other friends that were in the military but none of them have that. We all have this common bond that we had in our unit. And so one of the interesting things is common bonds can build with Storge, and the catalyst for this is our memories, and that's where we build these memories is in these common bonds that you have with a parent. Like they're your first memories, right? And then same thing with siblings, same thing with elementary school, middle school, high school. Some of the friendships, you may not have actually spent a lot of time with a person. You might have passed from class to class type of thing, or joked around in the library. But interestingly, they were, the bonds and the memories that make them feel so much more. And it's not that they're not real. It's just that's where the catalyst for this comes from. And the ways to show this type of love is to show gratitude towards each other. The types of friendship. Like one of the things that I absolutely love about technology and Facebook is the ability that I had to reconnect with people from my youth, right? People from the past. and to reconnect, because without that, we would have never been able to find each other. Like I wouldn't know that my homeboy Aaron Watkins, I'm giving you a shout out, brother. My boy John Damus, like these were kids that I grew up with, and we just kind of like, I moved away from my hometown, and we didn't even have cell phones back then, so I wouldn't have these numbers or ways to connect. So Facebook allowed me to rekindle some of those connections and see what's going on with their lives and see their kids and their wives and things like that. And they can see what's going on, and we can help support each other, man. Like I love it. So Storge is that familiar love, again, that is built around building memories together, right? I have love for cousins that I don't see and don't have memories with. See, that's a different type of love. So, you got to remember, but I have cousins that I spent time with, so I can have multiple types of love with them. Even though we're family, I love them for a specific reason that they're family, but then I also love them for a reason that we have memories together. And that's that Storge love, right? Storge. So moving on, then we have Eros. Right this is the Valentine. So was Cupid shooting arrows or was he shooting arrows? I know I'm good for dad jokes, right? So this is personal infatuation and physical pleasure, right? The catalyst for this is body. This is, you can love a person and love the way they look. You can love the way they feel. You can love their sensuousness. You can love many things about a person. And Eros is where that comes from. And, it's funny, like, can a person, here's a question that was asked to me in a philosophy class many years ago, is can a person love an inanimate object? Can a person love a place? Right? Like, I love this chair. I love the way that it feels. I love the way that it supports my body, right? So I guess technically, but some people would say, no, that's not a real love. That's just you like the chair a whole lot. But over time, if I carve my name in this chair, I put this chair together. I bought this chair, right? So I've been through experiences with it. I like the way that it feels. I very much believe that I can love this inanimate object in the same sense that I would love a person, because you got to remember, some of these are like, the catalyst for this is my body. The other catalyst for this was a memory. I have memories with this chair, right? So the same attributes that are triggering the chemicals in my body to make me feel love can happen from an inanimate object or an animal or, a pet. When I say animal, I mean a pet. Or, certain groups, you can love a group, like, who doesn't love the Eagles? Right. I say that because I'm in Philly, but like some people like people they've never, have a love for people that they've never met. But some things, which is interesting about this, is like a personal infatuation and a physical pleasure. This can really expand and get really deep, because you can love something physically that you don't actually have a physical touch with. I'll give you an example, an experience, right? Like, watching Super Bowl games, you get to eat all different kinds of food that you love, and that's an experience. And then you pass out and take that nap, during the halftime show, or sometimes watching that game after Thanksgiving. Like, you enjoy watching the game, sure, but your body also has this pleasure center of all these delicious foods that you're giving to it. So it actually falls in love with that experience. So it's an interesting thing that even though this one is about the physical pleasure doesn't necessarily have to come just from touch. You can be in love with a scent. You can be in love with a taste. So it's an interesting thing. But your body also creates a whole nother sense that is experience. And that's usually a culmination of multiple senses. And it's also a culmination of our memories. Right? So when you put all that together, you can have Eros for something you've never been in contact with, but it's more of an experience. But certainly, Eros is that romantic love. This is the pre-phase that we would normally state before we say that where somebody actually falls into a deep love, right? This is we all experienced this in our 20s, right? We all experienced this in college for sure. I'm not saying you don't experience it now with your significant other or your loved one, but we definitely experienced this growing up in some of our short-term relationships. And a way to show this love is to engage in physical touch or hugging or kissing. But listen, telling a person I love you is a state of eros. Period. Why? Because you are triggering a physical reaction by telling them you love them. They hear it. That's a physical reaction. So moving on, we have ludus. So ludus is the type of love that this is like crush love. This is when you're flirting with somebody. This is what we all experienced in middle school and high school. When the first time we saw, that person that we liked, that girl or that boy that we liked in middle or high school, right? And but you don't have to have any contact. You don't have to tell this person that you're in love with them to experience this. This even happens in elementary school when the girl's teasing the boy or the boy's making fun of the girl, right? Because that's what it is. They actually like them, but they don't want to let them know because they don't want to be embarrassed, right? So this is an emotional state of love. It doesn't require physical touch, doesn't require proximity. It's just something that it's personal, but it usually requires somebody else or something else, right? So this is when you admire somebody. All right, now this is the one type of love you might not want to have, right? This is mania. So this is a word that actually gets used quite a bit nowadays with a lot of the mental health stuff that's going on. And what does mania really mean, right? Like, because what about like manic depressives and people are bipolar? Is this what they're talking about, right? So mania is when you are obsessively in love with somebody. So like this also goes into the crush level too, because you can step up that crush level and be obsessive over somebody. Like, why is this person with this person and not with me? And all kinds of weird things can come up from this. Envy, jealousy, right? These are things that this is the type of love that we really don't want to get into, because it's not necessarily a love, right? It's what's up, Jasmine? Glad you joined us. How you doing? Hope you're not snowed in up there in New York. We were iced in yesterday. I mean, like literally iced in. It was scary to even step out of my front yard without busting my ass. Anyway, so Jasmine was actually supposed to be on the show tonight, but we weren't able to click together because the weather's just been so bad the last 2 weeks. So we'll get her on the show here, hopefully next week. So, and I'm glad you're joining us because we're talking about, the different types of love. And if you guys don't know Jasmine, you can see she's dropped some comments down there. She's got a business called Home to My Soul, and she makes these candles that are different types of love candles. So you should check her out, man. Check out her stuff. Check her out on Instagram. Drop your Instagram in the comments, Jasmine, if you don't mind. Drop your at name. And so mania is that like real crazy love, where it's not love at all. But see, that's the thing is, if I say it's not love, but then why are we talking about it? It is a type of love, but it's definitely a distorted type of love. Like the catalyst for this is survival. So it's what happens is this is when you no longer take care of yourself and all you do is obsess about somebody else. That's one way of looking at it, right? This is when you do dangerous things for another person. Oh, you don't believe I love you? Well, watch me jump out of this tree to show you that I love you. That's not a good thing. Like, that's not, love doesn't require you to do that. Not a healthy type of love anyway. So way to avoid this is to put yourself first, but in a healthy way. Like, putting yourself first doesn't have to be selfish. The better off you are, the better you are to give somebody your attention and share your joy and happiness with somebody else, right? So let's get away from that icky, do they love me? Do I love them? Do I not love them? Or how does that go? How does it, somebody tell me how that saying goes with the flowers, right? She loves me not. There we go. Thanks. I'm so old. Some of those things don't make any sense to me. Like, I never understood the pulling of flowers and seeing if that's how it meant somebody loved you or not, right? Or what about what's that old cliche? If it's true love, right? Set them free, and if they come back, it's meant to be. That reminds me of a movie. One of my favorite love movies is Serendipity with I can't think of the actors' names right now. I'm old. I'm 42 years old, and my memory it still works. I just don't want to expend the energy. But it's a great movie. It's about a couple that come together, and then she has this crazy idea to say, well, let's prove if it was meant to be. If we come back together, then it was meant to be. So they separate ways, and they eventually get engaged to different people. But fate brings them back together, and then they realized how much they actually still really liked and loved each other. And I guess then they become disasters to their other relationships and form a new bond. But anyway, serendipity is one of my favorite words, because it means that fate has smiled upon you, that it is, these things that happen are not just that they're meant to happen, but they were meant to bring you good fortune. So I like that. I'll take some serendipity in my life all day, every day, right? All right. Number 7. Felicia, right? Philatia. I wonder if the Greek philosophers are rolling over in their grave. Philatia. So this is a self-love, and this is I practice this every day. Gotta practice this every day. When I first wake up and brush my teeth, I'm practicing self-love. I don't want to get up and look at myself in the mirror first thing in the morning, but I do. And I got to tell myself that I love myself, and today's going to be a good day. And that, this is the time that I give myself affirmations. Why do I do that? Is because I would like for my day to be better for myself. This is a self-love thing. And it says here, the love catalyst is the soul, right? So the soul is the catalyst for this type of love, the self-love. Now, some people say, wasn't that just ego when you love yourself? Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about self-care, self-love, your self-worth, your image to yourself, of yourself, is in this, not just your ego. So it's a fine line. Because when can you step over the line of being self-love and just being all ego? Like, man, look at these guns. I ain't going to show it to you, but man, this muscle is so big, right? But if that's what I do for a living, and I'm a bodybuilder and I'm on stage and I'm flexing, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. That's not egotistical. But if I just walk around every day, all day at work, like, man, look at these guns. Like, man, you should call the police because there's a lot of people in there with guns. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, I hate even saying that I'm saying that word. Excuse me. It's a bad analogy. Jasmine, I got to tell you, I'm sipping jasmine and lavender tea. Bet you can appreciate that. Let's see. So, ways to show this is having respect for yourself, having self-acceptance, right? So you're not beating yourself up for not having $1 million yet, or, all different kinds of things that you can do. Like pampering yourself is self-love. Making better decisions, like eating better food. That's Felicia. Philatia. I have no clue how to pronounce this. I have to look that up sometime and actually figure out how to pronounce that. All right, so that was number 7. So the last type of love, according to the Greeks, is my absolute favorite. And that is agape love. So I got an uncle. His name is Andrew Peter Evangelisti, and his initials are APE. So he goes by agape. Yeah, exactly. Bye, Felicia. So now we on to that agape, that the AG ape, right? That's how I like to say it because my uncle's name is, his initials are APE. So this is, in my opinion, is the best love. And the reason being is because it has to do with giving unconditionally. And this is the type of love that you can give to everyone. This is a state that you should be in. This is that state when we want to manifest stuff that you want to be in. This is love for the universe. This is love for God. This is love for yourself. This is love for your community. This is love for your family. This is just love this is love for love. This is the love of joy. This is the love of emotion. And this comes from your spirit. Think about it. This is spiritual love. It's unconditional love. I found that you cannot actually get to deep levels of love if you can't love unconditionally. You can't love unconditionally till you put your guard down. If you've got a guard up, if you're fenced in, if your heart's walled up from the pain and suffering that you've felt that you've received earlier in your life from past relationships or trauma or things from your childhood, you can't love unconditionally because you're in a defensive state. When you're in a defensive state, people's energy will perceive that you're being attacked or perceive that it seems like you're being attacked, and then that person has to become defensive and say, I'm not attacking you. I just want to love on you. So it's an interesting state to really get down into this one, to really let this flow. And this definitely flows out of the heart center, right? This is my favorite because this is the one that has to do with manifesting. This is the state when I feel agape. This is the one that makes my body temperature go up. I get, of course, you can, if you're being expressing physical love with somebody, your body temperature is going to go up too. But for myself, my body temperature goes up this is triggered for me when I go into a state of gratitude. When I go into a state of gratitude, it triggers agape love for me. So that brings up a good question. Is love and gratitude the same thing? Let you think about that for a second. Because when I'm grateful for something, it has my undivided attention and I'm focused on it. I'm thinking about it. And I'm giving it energy. I'm giving it my attention and my energy. Whether it's here, so maybe it was something that happened in the past and I'm grateful for that experience. But while I'm grateful for it, I'm actually thinking about it. I'm actually reactivating it with my attention. I'm giving it my energy. So isn't that the same thing as love? So in all of these, one of the maybe the common thread was giving things our attention. Because are you experiencing love if you're not giving it your attention? If I'm focused on my job and all I'm thinking about is my job, am I experiencing the love of my wife or my daughter or not married guys or ladies? I'm not married. I've never been married. I've been engaged more times than I choose to count, but I've never pulled the trigger and gotten married. And who knows, maybe I never will. I'm okay with that because I love myself and I enjoy myself and I enjoy the experiences that I have with people in all walks of life. And I'm okay with that. So maybe I'll get married. I have no aversion to it, but not about me. But I'm grateful. But I'm grateful for my relationships. I'm grateful for my friendships. I'm grateful for many types And that's where that's so while I'm sitting here expressing gratitude for people and things, like that's the agape state. Like I unconditionally love, like I don't need somebody's reciprocating love to love somebody fully in this state of love. See, the romantic type requires a reciprocation. You can love somebody, but that's generally, if that person doesn't love you, that's when you start to get into that mania state, right? If you're expressing a love for somebody who has but you can love somebody who doesn't love you, can't you? Without being a maniac? Yeah, I would like to think so. I would say that that's probably possible, or better yet, I know it's possible, right? So here's another interesting thing to ponder. So if love is attention, and we like to get metaphysical on this show, and as we know, wherever our attention goes, energy flows, and we affect things. We affect things with our attention and intention, right? Just by looking at it, just by thinking about it, we can send our energy to somebody else across the nation, or activate things. We've talked about it before. That's string theory. That's connecting to the 11th dimension of things. Is that just love? Is our attention love? It's energy. It's how we, when we go to work, aren't we just giving things our attention? Of course, we move things around, right? Sure. But first we have to give it our attention to even be able to move things around. Because that's the definition of work, is moving one thing from another place. That's it. That's all work is. Whether it's the keys on a keyboard, right? Or the letter that you send to somebody else, or the email. You're just moving one thing from place to place. That's the definition of work. But all of that is just giving our attention to something in small steps. Because if I'm moving something from one, it's just from one with intention. It's attention with intention. So I'm wondering, is all the energy exchange that we're using in the universe, is that just love? Is that just some form of love? Is that a higher form of love? Like the whole creation of the universe? Like here it says in the Bible that God created, he loved us so much, he created us in his own image. So I know a lot of egotistical people are thinking about, well, I look like God, right? Or to me, rather than what we look as our physical experience, it's everything that we experience outwardly and inwardly is his image, meaning the sky, the sun, the universe, the planets, the birds, the squirrels, the bees, right? I think all experiences that we are capable of having is the experience that is the image of God. It's in the oneness of everything. And we're just part of it. And the funny thing is we have such power in creation with our attention and with our intention that we can actually affect things just by perceiving it, just by looking at it. I'll give you an example. You ever seen an abandoned house, how it looks real dilapidated? The paint starts chipping off and windows start to sag and the grass starts to overgrow. And what's funny is these houses are generally built at the same time as the houses next door, but their paint's not chipped. Things aren't falling apart. What's up, Shayna? I'm glad you joined us. So these houses that are being neglected and aren't getting any attention start to fall apart. The foundation starts to crack. Roof shingles start to fall off. But guess what? Their next door neighbors, who aren't actually doing maintenance to their house, except for maybe mowing their lawn, aren't experiencing these things. So attention keeps things alive, right? So it's an interesting thing that our attention can keep things thriving. So is that just love? So when you're when you live in a house and you're looking at the walls and the paint and the bricks in it, and just by being there, it seems to make a difference on whether or not something can thrive or not. So yeah, I personally think our attention is a form of love. As we're spending our attention on something, we're giving something our time, right? And earlier in the show, we were talking about that money is just an exchange of love. And that just meant that we spend our time somewhere else, giving something else our attention. And then we get money for that energy exchange. So is money actually a form of love? Well, it's funny that there's a couple scientific articles that came out recently that suggested that money can absolutely buy happiness. In the past, it was just saying that past studies had shown that humans, after they reach above the poverty level and they have that level of purchasing power, which in the past was $50,000, that people believed that anything above $50,000 was not going to give you any more happiness. Come on, man. We all know that's ridiculous. Give me a yacht. I'll be happy for a couple days. Believe me. The fact that I can go to Santorini, I can go to Italy, I can go anywhere in the world. Give me a helicopter. Watch me fly that around to go to the grocery store. I would enjoy that. So, those are things. But see, that's where what the scientists would tell you, well, that's not the money. Those are just experiences. And you can have those experiences without money. So what they're saying is those are just amplified experiences. And that those aren't because of money. Those are just you having a good time. And to a certain extent, I would say this is probably true, but new scientific studies show that at much higher levels of income, people are much happier. Their dopamine and serotonin levels are much more even, and that they seem to be actually happier than people who are struggling in life. I mean, obviously, I would say, but I don't think that it's money itself. I don't think it's, having Benjamins and looking at money. Clearly it's not. It's about having more energy, which then alleviates the way that we have to struggle for time. If you're struggling, you got to get on the road and wait in line and wait in traffic and wait to collect your check and go to pay your check and go to the check cashing place. Like when you're struggling, everything starts to take a piece of you. Everything starts to take more time. And that's an energy that we're putting out. And so when we get past that level of the struggle or poverty, right? Time starts to alleviate for us because we can fix the things that are causing us disharmony. So I don't want to say money is love, but I definitely want to say clearly having some purchasing power and being in a state of abundance and prosperity absolutely allows for more happiness, more joy, which allows us to give more time and more energy. So if we have the freedom to give love is really what it is. So if you recognize there's people so what are you saying? Poor people can't love as much as wealthy people? Because that's black and white what that's saying, right? I think it's, again, is about having the state of the level of thriving. It's the difference between being in a state of survival and being in a state of thriving. Thriving means that everything you need is right there for you. You don't have to go anywhere else. You're in a place that helps you thrive. It's a state of, absolutely, it's a state of mind, Jasmine says. And so to thrive doesn't just happen by yourself. It is a state of mind. But if you lived on the moon and there was no food, no water, how do you think you could keep your state of mind of just love when you got 3 minutes left to air in your tank? See, that's where poverty plays a huge effect in our world as to whether or not a person can be in that unconditional love state. So does it then say, or would it be safe to say that a person who's in a poverty state can get into an unconditional love state and maybe change their surroundings? With the whole idea of as above, so below, as above, right? Meaning that if I affect this over here, I'm going to manifest this over here. Meaning if I change my vibrational state to that of gratitude and unconditional love, can I then put myself in a state of abundance, prosperity, and wealth? Well, I would tell you that A lot of self-help books suggest that that's possible, to go from, to flip the switch over here to get this lever to pop up, or to push this lever down to flip the switch up, or to switch down, and they affect each other. And I'd like to think that that's true. As a matter of fact, I've been in that state. I've turned many financial situations around just by getting into a love and gratitude state. And for whatever reason, the universe has given me exactly what I've needed all my life. There have been times, of course, you guys know that I was a homeless veteran at one point in time. And, but I was saved. Like, it didn't take me long. I always had. I never went without. Never starved, never got scurvy. I have never gone without water, right? And I know there are plenty of people in the world that struggle just to get drinking water and to have enough food to eat every 3 days, let alone every day, right? But what's causing that? So let's see. Jasmine said, what you focus on grows, even with tiny bits of abundance. If you focus on the small blessings, they get bigger. And if you're close to dying, an abundant spirit would feel happy to transition. There is no lack. It's a spiritual challenge to overcome, and wonderful when you do. Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. Thanks for sharing that with us, Jasmine. It's beautiful words. Love is a powerful force, right? Gratitude's a powerful force. The two of these things I think are hand in hand. Now, in word form, I think they're different, but I think in the actualization, or the actual doing of expressing gratitude or expressing love, I think they're very much the same. I really do. I think they're the I'm a Freemason. I think a lot of you guys know that. And, the logo is a square and compass, in the middle of it is a G. And I would tell you, in my opinion, I think the G stands for love. As in the force that is the glue to our whole universe. I think it's the thing that holds us together. I think it's the thing that keeps us bound to I think it's why we wake up every day. I think it's why we're bound to the earth. I think it's why we're bound to these bodies. We love the experiences that we have. We love the people that come into our lives, right? Even when we say we don't, like, oh man, I'm sick of this person, et cetera, et cetera. How many people would argue and fight with a person, dislike their relationship, but keep coming back to it? It's sad, but people do, man. It's because they've come to love the punishment that they receive. And of course, we call that addiction. But it's a form of love, man. Like, nobody said that every form of love was beautiful or good. But I think love is a force that actually exists in the universe. And it's not just an emotional state that comes from human beings. Because clearly animals love each other. Right? But, here's where I give you an example of the potentiality of love. Like let me give you a real good, and what I mean is, when I'm going to say the physical aspect, but I don't mean physical like can touch. I mean the physics aspect of love being a force in the universe that is scientifically provable. You ever just seen a single skyscraper anywhere in the world with no city around it? You ever seen anybody just build a skyscraper in the middle of Iowa in a cornfield? Absolutely not. All skyscrapers are around other skyscrapers, right? You ever seen bears that didn't live near a food supply? There are polar bears, but guess what? They find penguins. They go where there's food, right? So we call that a habitat, where something has its meets its criteria to sustain life. But skyscrapers don't have any life. But how come you don't? It's because nobody wants to spend the money to build a skyscraper. But guess what? There are abandoned skyscrapers, right? So there are skyscrapers that never make any money, that just fail and flop. How come nobody just builds one in the middle of nowhere? Well, obviously it's because in their mind, it's about sustaining workers and energy and money. They want to continue that. And that's why nobody would build one in the middle of nowhere. But how do they know that, like build it and they will come? How do they know that if I don't build a skyscraper in the middle of a cornfield in the middle of nowhere, how do you know that people won't come there to work? I know that seems weird, but here, I'm going to expound upon it. How come? See, I'm telling you, there's a gravitational force that's causing them to be built together, not just somebody's decision, but that's also the gravitational force that's making them think that way. Like, why do all the planets in our solar system hang out around the sun? How come they just don't fly off and go somewhere else? Well, it's gravity. Their gravitational pull, right? So does that mean that can you tell that I'm trying to suggest that love and gravity may be the same thing? But see, here's the thing is, I don't think they are. I think love is a force of its own that exists and should be listed as one of the properties of physics, just like the weak force and strong force, nucleic pull of a nucleus of an atom, right? Just like gravity, just like the magnetic force, right? Those are the forces of the universe. But I think love is absolutely one of them. And I think it's what holds things together. And I'll give you another example, because there's a gravitational pull to the moon and to the earth, right? The moon stays in orbit, but I think the moon loves the earth, and that's why it doesn't fling out of orbit, because it's moving. It could, let me explain to you why the moon absolutely could just float away into space. It's because not only are we moving, but we exist in different time states, and the moon exists in a different time state. And because they're separate in proximity and separate in time spaces, gravity would eventually loosen the moon and fling it away. But I think because the moon so loves the earth and the earth so loves the moon, they don't. Because technically, physics says they should fly off. They should not stay in their own gravitational state. They should eventually, the force should weaken and fly off. It's crazy when you think about it. Like, that's what physics says. Physics says the moon should fly off into space. And for years, nobody knew why it didn't. Until they started to, people said, oh, it's because it's rotating on its own. It's kind of like a pool ball. Well, if you ever watch a pool ball spinning, it may seem like it's spinning in place, but microscopically, it's actually moving away. And that little microscopic move would be enough to allow the moon to just fly off into space. All moons to all planets. But I think it's a love, and it's a weird thing to think about. But I think if you recognize the thriving state of the earth is required for the moon to be there. If the moon was not there, boy, our trees wouldn't grow the same. Our plants and crops wouldn't grow the same. There would not be an ebb and flow of tide. This is one of the reasons that we believe that there's even life on the planet, is because the moon created the tides, which created ebb and flow, which created movement on the planet. So I know it's weird for me to say that the earth loves the moon, but listen, man, like we're all conscious people here. This is a conscious show. We all know that the earth is alive. Gaia has existed. I mean, whether you believe it or not, I do. So I know that the earth has love for the moon, and the moon has love for the earth, and they both have love for the sun, because they work together in perfect harmony. And our existence is proof of that. Like, we would not exist if there was no moon, there was no earth, and there was no sun. Oh, so Jasmine says, yep, this means that we need women. LOL, the moon. Well, listen, just because the moon is symbolized alchemically as the female feminine energy, that doesn't mean that it's not also masculine. The moon gives just as much as it receives. They have both. But yes, of course we need women. Of course. We need men too. There's no doubt about that. Of course. We need, so we talk about the dichotomy of life. In my opinion, it's the trichotomy of life. And I believe that we miss it. That's something that we miss. And if here's a great example, is look at the yin and yang. Everybody thinks of the two sides of the yin and the yang, but there's more than two sides to a yin and yang. Of course, you're just saying that's cute, but of course we need women, yes, but there's more to the male female aspect. I think that we're missing it, and I think that missingness is what is, in my opinion, is the glue in between those two sides, which to me is love. And if you look at the yin and yang, there's two little dots on each side, and there's a force. And so in the yang side, there's a white dot, and in the yin side, there's a black dot, right? And it's showing that there's a yin and yang force in each one. So on the masculine side, there's a feminine aspect, and on the feminine aspect, there's a masculine aspect, right? It's an interesting principle when you start to realize it. And so that's very much like in physics when they talk about the strong and the weak nucleic force. I mean, realize it's getting real scientific. Some people might have no clue what I'm talking about. Well, there are forces that exist on their own in the universe that scientists and physicists and quantum physicists have discovered and can prove and show that they are there. And they're not being acted upon by any force to create. Like magnetism is a force. Gravity is a force, right? And all the way down to the nucleus of an atom, there are forces that hold electrons and protons in space, and it's not gravity. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the moon and the sun and the earth and how they don't just fly apart, because gravity wouldn't be strong enough to keep the moon in state in the fact that it's moving. The movement would be enough to fling it away. There's something else that holds it in place. And I'm trying to suggest that missing ingredient that physicists have been looking for is love. Things that create a thriving state, things that will look to find a thriving state or homeostasis will gravitate to each other on there automatically. So that means if you are things that come around you and you find the things that you like, the more attention that you give them, the more you get of them. What? Just like buy a car. I don't care. Go buy a Toyota Camry and then get on the road. See how many Toyota Camrys you see every day. I bet you see at least 5 or 6 of them just on the way to work. And people will say, oh, well, that's psychology. You're just seeing more of it because you're programmed to see it and you just weren't noticing it before. Absolutely not true. I used to look for my favorite car all the time and I would never see it until I bought one. And then I saw it every single day, everywhere I went. Same color, same rim, same everything. That's love, man. That's what it is. That's a love and gravity working together. That's all forms of energy working on together in harmony. So I absolutely believe that love is one of the physical attributes of force in all of the universe. I believe inanimate objects love for their homeostasis, when I say homeostasis, again, that means the state of where they can survive, where something can survive. It will try to move or manipulate reality into a state where anything can survive. You do it all the time. You stay inside when it's cold, right? You go get sunlight so you get vitamin D. You eat food. You go to places where people like you to sustain yourself. You make decisions based off of it. Your whole life is based off of doing things that you would love and finding places that would love you as well. And that's your thriving state. And I think the whole universe is aligned with that. Like it's permeating all things, right? So in saying that, I want to take a moment and say, yes, I absolutely love you guys. From the heart center. I love you from my heart center. I'm in a good place. And I don't mean just where I'm sitting at. I mean, of course, I love this chair. But I'm a good place in life. I'm in a good place in my life. I'm in a good place with myself. And my life is being provided for me. And what that means is I am in a thriving state. Like I'm healthy. I'm young. I feel good. I mean, I kind of think I look good. I get told I look good, right? And I eat well. I eat better food than I search for. I find better foods. I have my own clothes, like I'm wearing my own clothes, right? I'm in a homeostasis where my reality is providing for me, and I'm in a thriving state. I am capable of doing more for others because I'm in a state where I'm not in a state of lack. That's a state of love for me. Like that's where because of that, I'm not in a fearful state. I'm not fearful of not having. I'm not fearful of losing somebody's love. I'm not fearful of my love being reciprocated. And what that does is allows me to love people and things and places unconditionally. And because of that, I am in a thriving state because I am not being defensive in any way. I don't fear what other people think about me, or because I have found myself and I have self-love. And if somebody else loves me, that's an added bonus because I know I can wake up every day and fulfilled because I know that I love myself. And so I'm not sharing that because of my ego and I want you to think that, oh, well, Nick is doing so well. I'm sharing that because it's replicatable. You can have that in your own life too, if you don't already. And if you do, namaste. I love you from my heart center. I'm glad that you're in that state as well. It's a beautiful place to be, right? And if you're not there, here's the key. First off, start to love yourself. Love yourself. Love yourself unconditionally. That might be at first, you might have to love something about yourself that you don't like. Love it anyway. Love that the experiences you went through gave you strength, right? Doesn't matter if there's a lot negative going on in your life right now. Just begin to love yourself and be comfortable with yourself and grateful for the skills, gifts, beauty, and likeness that you have in your life. Be thankful for it. Be grateful for it. That will start a flow. That starts movement. And that movement builds up momentum. That momentum grows energy. That energy, as it has momentum, draws other energy to it. That's physics, man. It creates its own stuff with momentum, has gravity. Like the earth, the moon. You pull things into your orbit. You attract things. You create an attraction. And if you're in a state of love, and you're in a state of loving unconditionally, guess what? Other people love you unconditionally too. But when you dislike yourself or dislike your experiences and dislike your environment, well, you're going to get more of that. I talk about that all the time with the law of attraction. Now, it wasn't, did I just come out of my mother's womb loving myself? Actually, I think I did until I had that first childhood traumatic experience that knocked me out of that. And I started to second guess and question my whole place in the universe and whether or not people love me. And for a long time, I struggled in life. Kept feeling like life was attacking me or didn't love me and that I had to fight and struggle. And the only reasons for that is because that's what I was putting out. I was now defensive. I was defending myself. I was defending my position. I felt like people were hurting me, so I became defensive. And guess what? Anybody who interacted with that seemed like they were hurting, even though they weren't. They were just trying to give me their unconditional love, but I wasn't accepting it. So when we accept love, when we give love, when we receive love, when we are love, that's when we get into our thriving state. It requires giving. It requires receiving. It requires being open to it. And all of that is what unconditional love is. It's not just giving. A lot of people will go out and just give, but then take no time to receive, and they're out of balance, and they're not in a thriving state. And this is where a lot of people go wrong, and they're like, yeah, but I'm a loving person, man. I would give everything I got, but they won't take nothing. And believe me, I know a lot of people like that. So if I want to give a gift to a person like that and they won't take anything, do they allow me to give my love? No. How do I can unconditionally love a person like that from afar? And it's crazy to recognize that we live interdependently. It's not crazy. It's just a little far outside of the norm. Most people are just not experiencing life in a state where we can love unconditionally. And it's because they haven't done any work to look at their childhood traumas. Really. And that's why, we talk about it. Do some shadow work, heal yourself, recognize what's really going on, love and embrace yourself for your fully who you are. When you come back out, you're capable of loving unconditionally without expectation in return. And that's, that starts to lead to all kinds of wonderful things like altruism, charity and brotherly love and community and civilization. All of those are built on those principles of unconditional love. The civilization we live in was built on unconditional love. Of course, it got skewed and got into a whole bunch of those other states, some of even the mania state, which created our reality, because they all exist. But the basis of our reality, I believe, the whole universe, God's kingdom, our kingdom, your kingdom, is built in unconditional love. Your whole reality, if you just stop and ponder for a second, you'll see what I'm saying is true. You can just look around, feel the gratitude state. Like my body's already gone up 3 or 4 degrees when I start to get into the unconditional love state. Like, like they talk about the avatar state. Like for me, it's the agape state. Maybe one day I'll make a comic where a guy goes into an agape state and all of a sudden he gets superpowers and he just starts attracting everything he wants in life. I think it already exists. Anyway, so this has been a great show. I'm glad you guys joined me. It was mostly me talking for quite some time, but I hope I shed a little light on the word love, the meaning of love, how love is for you guys in the universe. I'm glad you guys joined me. I want to take a couple seconds and just plug some stuff. We got a newspaper that comes out Monday through Friday. It is the Awake and Aware Daily, right? It's at awkawr.com. It's basically, I call it COCO, right? Which is conscious content. It's nothing but conscious content. So if you're looking for that, if you're tired of the news, you're tired of politics, you're just tired of the sham and drudgery of life, and you want some feel-good stuff, some stuff to give you tips and tools to thrive in life, to find your thriving state, filled with tons of stuff like that. It's awkawr.com. That's the short version of Awake and Aware. Also, like if you're looking for conscious clothing, check me out at awakenaware.com, which is AWAKE, the letter N, AWARE, awakenaware.com. Check me out there. And I've got coffee. I've got so much stuff coming for you guys. I've got 20,000 products coming for you. Promise you, I got 20,000 products, nothing but green and organic stuff coming your way. Foods, creams, body stuff, spiritual stuff, yoga stuff, everything. It's coming very soon. But right now you can get all your Wake and Wear merch there. You got shirts, you got joggers, you got all kinds of stuff. And it's really good clothing and people love it. And it's all high vibrational. Everything that I design has a high vibrational state in it. I use sacred geometry in my drawings and my numbers and the angles that I use, the geometry, that everything that I use is I put unconditional love into it, and I vibrate love and listen to good music and chill vibes when I'm making clothing. So you'll feel it when you put it on. And I use sustainable clothing, sustainable cottons and recycled materials and all kinds of stuff. So we're just putting out more good stuff into the universe. And all our coffees are built on farms that use the rainforest agreement, and they are organic. So not all coffees are organic, but some of them are, and they're clearly labeled if they are. But they are all people who treat their farmers and the people that works on their farms are all on the up and up. There's no slave labor. There's no indentured servitude going on with any of the coffees that I sell. So check them out. Get you some. Got some sales going on and some new products launching, and you just keep your eye out on awakenaware.com and Awaken Aware. We got a lot of big things coming up. We got a magazine coming soon. It's just a lot of stuff. So I'm glad that you guys are part of the community. Also, if you'd like to take part in the group and the further discussion other than this live show, check us out on Facebook. We're Awaken Aware. We have a live group. You can find it on the Awaken Aware page, which is facebook.com/Awaken Aware Inc. Right? So check us out there if you're not already, and be part of the community. And I thank you guys for joining me and making this a thriving community. I get a lot of feedback from you guys, loving what we're doing. Got a lot of things coming up. We're going to take part in a bunch of other communities. Got a lot of new people that are going to come on the show. I've got some old people that are going to come back on the show. That not old people, but people who have been on the show before. And 11:11, just saying, divine timing to end the show. Well, it's a pleasure. It's been amazing. So close it up, and you guys have a wonderful night. Thanks for joining me. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm up.